Hi, I'm Mark, and today I want to talk about criminal activists in the UK. With a spectacular protest in October 22, two British climate activists are demanding an end to the oil industry. They paralyzed traffic near London for almost 2 days, and a court is now sending the two men to prison for several years. So these two British activists from the environmental organization Just Stop Oil have been sentenced to up to 3 years in prison for blocking an important traffic route near London. The two activists, who were found guilty of public nuisance, were sentenced to 3 and 2 years and 7 months in prison, respectively, by a court in Southend in England. According to Just Stop Oil, it is the toughest sentence for peaceful climate action in the UK. Peaceful. Judge Shane Collery said the activists would be punished for the mess they have caused and to discourage others from copying them. He emphasized that the action in mid-October had affected several tens of thousands of people, some of them significantly. Morgan Troland, 40, had already been convicted 6 times for previous protests, and 34-year-old Marcus Decker had previously been convicted. In the early morning of October 17th, the two men climbed onto one of the towers of the bridge named after Queen Elizabeth II, which is used by around 160,000 vehicles every day. There, they unfurled a banner that read, "Just Stop Oil." According to prosecutors, traffic in East London had to be interrupted from 4 a.m. until 9 p.m. the next day. According to the organization, there have been more than 2,000 arrests since Just Stop Oil began its operations in April 22. 138 activists were arrested. But people can protest legally. As we just saw, thousands of demonstrators gathered in front of Parliament in London on Saturday as part of days of protests against the British government's environmental policy. The focus of the rally on Saturday was nature and species protection. Some participants came in animal costumes. Many children also took part in the protest march, which led from Westminster Abbey to Parliament. The protesters held up signs that read, "Extermination is forever." The environmental degradation and loss of biodiversity constitutes a state of emergency, was said by one of the protesters. And she, for example, traveled 6 hours with her 2 children to attend. Everyone must pull together so that future generations can still enjoy our beautiful planet, they say. And they say that they could actually take to the streets more often to protect the environment, but her life consists of work and family. However, inaction is no longer an option because of the urgency of the situation. And a little boy that was asked there by German media who attended the protest with his parents, he wore a tiger costume there. "We are here to save the planet from people who are destroying it," was said by a 10-year-old boy. At the conclusion of the rally, protesters prostrated themselves in front of Parliament in commemoration and mourning the heartbreaking 70% decline in wildlife populations since the first Earth Day in the 1970s, organizers said. And Greenpeace UK chief Ariba Hamid said, "As the government fancies the flames of the climate and biodiversity crisis, it is clear that only concerted efforts can quench them." The 4 days of protests in the UK served as a catalyst for a new united struggle against interest groups that put profits before people and the earth. The protest days began on Friday with demonstrations in front of ministries in London, in which, according to the environmental group Extinction Rebellion, thousands of people also took part. The environmental and social failure of the British government was denounced, they say. Extinction Rebellion has caused controversy in recent years by blocking roads and airports. In January, however, the group announced that it would stop such sensational protests for the time being and instead mobilize numerous people to work for nature and climate protection. Extinction Rebellion accuses the Conservative British government of ignoring the dangers of global warming. The climate and environmental crisis will not only happen in the future, it is already here, was said by Extinction Rebellion spokeswoman Zoe Cohen. It's time for the government to take this seriously and listen to the people here. A major rally was planned also on Sunday parallel to the London Marathon. In order to minimize disruptions, the protest organizers held talks with the organizers of the sporting event in advance. And that is a way to do it. And first of all, it is a way to do it, to do protests legally. In a democracy, and I know the issues with new legislation in the UK about demonstrations, but in a democracy, it is absolutely possible to demonstrate legally and not to commit crimes to make a point. And that, I've been criticized a lot for saying this here on my channel, but I continue to say this. If somebody commits a crime to make a point, they have to be hit by the strength of the law and by the authorities with what the law holds for them. There is no reason to protest in the form of crimes. The same goes for the UK as it goes here in Germany. And Extinction Rebellion here in Germany is still committing crimes. Although they also said they would cut that down, but they still do that. And it is a crime to block a road. It is not allowed to have a demonstration without prior consent of the police. The police has very strict rules for giving the consent and for giving the permission for the demonstration. So it's not easy for them to block any demonstration. They must have very good points for doing that in a special case, but usually they don't. And so we have a lot of demonstrations here in my hometown. And there are tons of legal ways to do this. And that is a way to make a point. Committing crimes is not a valid way of making a point, no matter what your cause is. The only thing that I would accept is something that our Constitution says, although in that case our Constitution would be ignored by those people. If suddenly something would happen like a dictatorship government here in Germany, even our Constitution says we should stand up and fight. But that is the only situation where I see people to break the law. And in the end, it wouldn't be breaking the law because it's the Constitution saying so. So in the end, there is no reason to break the law to make a point. And if people break the law, then they should take the consequences that are in the law. That's what it's for. And as I know, a lot of people will hit on me for saying that again, but I believe that this is the case, and I will continue to do so. And I will also call for people blocking roads and committing other crimes to be sentenced to either prison or fines, whatever the law says they deserve. And in the case of repetition, yeah, they definitely belong to prison. And I'll see you in my next video. I'll be back.